What's going on, everybody? It's Ricky with Video Homicide, and today I gotta give it up for the homie Danny B over at the Trash Dash, because on the same video that Radioactive Blob Fuel told me to watch Lady Terminator, Danny told me to watch a movie called Hands of Steel, which was another Terminator ripoff. For some reason, I have this like obsession with Terminator exploitation films that exploit the whole cyborg trope. There's times where this movie is a hardcore kind of, I would say, like truck driver arm wrestling type film, and there's other times where it's like full on like sort of badass corporate dudes in helicopters with shotguns that literally have like rockets hanging off the ends of them. Like, it's crazy. I don't even know if that's a real thing. Anyone that's like a gun enthusiast, let me know if you can attach like a rocket to the edge of or to the end of a shotgun. And I'm so glad that you mentioned this movie, Danny, because you mentioned that you didn't see this movie yet. Dude, you gotta watch this shit. It's on YouTube. The link to it will be in the description. So I watched Hands of Steel. Okay, I started it this morning, and I watched like 20 minutes of it. I was at the gym, and I was like, all right, as soon as I get home, I gotta finish this fucking movie. So get home, throw it on, and I'm thinking in my head, and I think anyone that watches this film, maybe 45 minutes of the film, you don't know he's a cyborg. You get subtle hints that like he's a kind of a government, insurgent type of dude that goes around almost like a hitman for the government. If that makes sense, that's the kind of vibes that I got. But in reality, he is this cyborg dude. So basically, the film starts off. We got our main dude, Paco, who's the Terminator guy. He's a badass type. He pulls up in a Corvette. He goes into this project, and he kills this guy who's like a messiah, sort of like a cult leader. They don't really, like, the movie kind of starts off with this whole culty feel, but then it takes off like pretty quickly. So, and also what's kind of weird and strange about this film is kind of takes place during this like virus that again is kind of only briefly brushed across. So I really thought that was interesting because especially right now in the age of the coronavirus. But the film, Paco, the Terminator dude, after he kills the guy, I'll spoilers alert, okay? But he takes off and he's on the run from both the law and from these assholes that basically made him. And one of the dudes, like the main bad guy in this film is John Saxon, of course, who fought alongside Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. He's the dad from Nightmare on Elm Street. He was also I believe he was in Part 3 as well, and he's been in a slew of other sort of genre films, lots of exploitation movies. I think he's directed a few himself, but basically, this film, I forgot to mention, is directed by Sergio Martino, and the only other film that I've seen directed by him was Mountain of the Cannibal God with Stacy Keach, which is a pretty dope movie in its own right. I would check that one out. Way better than like Papaya, the fucking cannibal goddess, and there's a slew of really bad cannibal films out there, but I think Mountain of the Cannibal God wasn't that bad. I think I made a video talking about that film, but anyways, Paco, who's now on the run, is he finds his way to like this diner after like a series of mishaps with his car. Like there's acid rain at one point and it's like dripping through like the roof of the car and stuff, and he takes it to this old like hick sort of junkyard kind of guy, and he trades the car for this old Ford, and then the Ford runs out of gas, so he pushes it off a mountain, and it gets to the bottom of the mountain and it just rolls a few times and explodes. It's awesome. And I just had a really good time with this. There's another part. I know I'm all over the board here, but there's a really cool part where they're talking about his sort of statistics, if you want to call it that, where they're like he was trained, his success rate is extremely high, and there's a part where it says negative characteristics, none. And I just thought that was so badass. Like, it kind of reminds me of like when you're a kid, or like when I was a kid and I was watching certain movies. I wouldn't necessarily call it spoon-fed it to you, but they really, like, if there's a part where he goes into this sort of sewer that's like a electric conduit kind of tunnel, like where there's lots of electricity, and this one guy says he'll never survive down there with all the electricity. And so if you're a kid, you might think he's just going into a sewer, but in reality, like, they explain that he wouldn't be able to survive. And I really like movies like that from this era. Like if they do it now, it totally pisses me off. But these 1980s films, these sort of like exploitation, Italian sort of, just they give me the good feels within. You know what I mean? I really appreciate a good hardcore action film that's sci-fi as well. So I really dug this movie. I think that if you're a fan of, like, I would say that this is a Terminator exploitation film to some degree, but mostly I would just say it's a really good movie and fun. And that's what you want with these kind of flicks, you know? Like, there's a slew of movies on YouTube that are at your disposal, you know? And you might brush over them and be like, that looks cheesy, that looks shitty. But I'm telling you, man, late 80s, mid to late 80s, there was so many just fun movies released. And I'm super excited to just explore as many as I can, especially, you know, with them being free on YouTube. You don't gotta, you know, piss around and go and spend like $40. Like, I don't know if I've mentioned before, up here in Canada, to buy certain movies on like Blu-ray or DVD, it costs an arm and a leg if you're doing it brand new. Like, we have a chain store here called Cinema One. You go in there, and to buy this movie, I bet if they had it, first of all, which they don't have shit really, but if they did have it, I bet you this is like a $40 DVD, which is bogus, man. Like, when you go, like, it sucks because when I hear like my buddies and stuff in the States, like, you know, they're buying like movies from like these really kind of badass little like bookstores and stuff. Like, we have some stuff like that, but not nearly the amount that I see on like Instagram and YouTube and shit, where you can go in there and just find like tons of great stuff. Like, around here, we got thrift stores, and they're almost always picked over. So you're pretty much left with like, you know, sloppy seconds of some guys. You know, you might find like Lethal Weapon 1 through 4 about a dozen times, but you know, if anyone knows of any like sort of buddy cop films in this vein, like if you know any like Lethal Weapon ripoffs, please let me know, because I love Lethal Weapon and I love these like Italian fun actioneer films. So if I can find a mix of those two, I'll be so happy, because I feel like I've watched a decent amount of these types of flicks at this point, and I'm like thinking to myself, have I seen a Lethal Weapon one? No. So bring it on if you know any. Danny B, Trash Dash, you're the man, dude. As far as the effects go, like, there's so many cool little what I would call how do you do's, like where there's this woman cyborg that is sent to sort of mess with our Paco, and you know, he ends up ripping her head off, and then it's almost like you know, one of those deals, like if you've ever seen the movie The Burning, there's a scene where a guy gets stabbed in the throat and he's like laying there. So it's one of those kind of setups where like the guy was sitting there like this, and then they like built up the neck. So the same thing with this woman, and she's got like the wires and shit hanging out of her neck. And there's a really cool scene like later on in the film where he punches this dude in the face that's wearing like a bike helmet, like a motorcycle helmet, and his fist just goes right through the cover, and his face is all mangled, his eyes all messed up. Like, such cool shit, man. And even at one point near the end of the movie, where one of the guys that Paco arm wrestled, there's two dudes. There's one that hates him, and there's one that is like his buddy, like in the end for like the last like 2 minutes of the film. But this asshole guy that like sets up Paco a few times and gets him like dragged with a tow truck, and like he starts beating the shit out of him with a pipe while he's hung upside down, and he's like, how are you gonna arm wrestle now with like you're all beat up and all this shit? And of course it doesn't even make him flinch, and it's killer, man. I really like the scumbag arm wrestler dude. I think his name was Raoul in the film, but great show all the way around. Yeah, man, I appreciate everybody for watching this video. Danny B, the Trash Dash, the link will be the link to his channel will be in the description, so check his shit out, man, because he makes a lot of cool videos talking about movies that you don't hear about a lot of. I know he's really big for a while there into like, you know, 30s gangster films, so you know, he's got a wealth of knowledge on that type of shit, and he let me know about this flick. So Danny, watch this movie, dude. It's so dope. And with that being said, any kind of upcoming videos will be, or you know, I have some stuff I want to talk about in a channel update. I don't know when I'm going to be making that one, but lots of fun stuff coming up. And like I said, man, if you know any cool ass movies like this, leave them in the comments. I will watch them, I will talk about them, and have a great time doing so. So that being said, I'm gonna go eat a cheese string, call it a fucking day. It's like 9:30 in the morning. I've already watched an exploitation film, and it's gonna be a good day. Adios.